Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope and pray that are you all doing fine. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi ashabi ajma'in. Tasliman kathiran kathira. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. All thanks and praises are due to Allah, to whom we thank and seek help and seek forgiveness. Whomsoever Allah gives guidance will never be misled, and whomsoever Allah lets astray will never find any guide and help. I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship other than Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his slave and the final messenger. O you who believe, fear Allah as he should be feared, and die not except in the state of Islam. O mankind, be dutiful to your Lord who created you from a single person, and from him he created his wife, and from both of them he created many men and women, and fear Allah through whom you demand your rights of kinship. Surely, Allah is all watcher over you. O you believe, keep your duty to Allah and fear Him and speak always the truth. He will direct you to do righteous good deeds and will forgive your sins and will make you enter the Jannah and save from the hellfire. And whosoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has indeed achieved a great achievement. The best speech is Allah's kalam, and the best guidance is that is sent with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The worst matters are matters of innovation in deen, and every innovation is a bid'ah. Every bid'ah is dalala, and every dalala is in hellfire. Brothers and sisters, today's topic of Jummah for all of you will be a question. You need to ask yourself, are we true Muslims? This is the topic of my talk, inshallah, today. Then who are true Muslims? Let's answer the question from the Quranic and Sunnah point of view. Let us see what Allah Azza wa Jalla and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam have to say about the lives of and the hearts of true Muslims. Surah Al-An'am, Allah says in Quran, chapter 6, verse 163 to 164, He says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul, say, Inna salati, my prayers, wa nusuki, my sacrifice, wa mahyaya, and my living, wa mamati, and my dying, lillahi rabbil alameen, are for Allah alone, the Lord of all the worlds. La sharika lahu bidhalik, no partner has he. Wa bidhalik umirtu wa ana awwalul muslimin, that I have been commanded, I am foremost among those who surrender themselves to Him. So, to translation again, say, is this addressed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? My prayers, my sacrifices, and my living and my dying are for Allah alone, the Lord of all the worlds. No partner has He. Thus I have been commanded, and I am foremost among those who surrender themselves to Him. So this is the answer of Allah Azza wa Jal about true Muslims. Now the same thing has been elucidated by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in many hadiths. One is in Abu Dawood. In translation, he says, one who loves for the sake of Allah alone and hates for the sake of Allah alone, and whatever he gives, gives for the sake of Allah alone, and whatever he withholds, withholds for the sake of Allah alone, indeed he perfects his iman. So the Quran makes it very clear as to what Allah demands from you, the Muslims. You should devote yourselves wholly to the service of Allah. You should live for Him alone, and you should die for Him alone. You and the world around you entirely belongs to Allah. Let nobody have a share in what belongs to Allah. That is to say, you should not serve anyone but Him, nor live nor die for anyone but Him. Rasulullah ﷺ explains what the Quran has just said. He says, to be a true believer, you love, and your love, your enmity, for everything, all your affections, all your relations, all your transactions in your lives should have only one purpose. That is to seek Allah's pleasure. Without this, your iman itself will not be complete. The possibility of rising higher in the sight of Allah does not arise. The greater the deficiency in this respect, the more defective your iman be. Some people think these qualities are required only to reach higher spiritual station and are not essential to Iman and Islam. In other words, they think even though these qualities, a person without these qualities, a person may be good mu'min or a Muslim. That's what they think. This is mistaken. This notion is mistaken, has arisen because people in general do not differentiate between legal Islam and true Islam. There is a difference between legal Islam and true Islam. Likewise, there is a difference between a partial Muslim and a true Muslim. True Islam, which alone is truly authentic in the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal. So let me explain this a little bit more as to what are these two types of Islams. Basically, Islam is one, but people have made it two now. One is legal Islam and one is the true Islam. So if you follow the legal Islam, you are a partial Muslim until you follow the true Islam. Then you become a true Muslim. So what is legal Islam? Under legal Islam, on which the jurists, the judges and the fuqaha and the government, the states, they must base their dealings on this legal Islam. Here, what lies in your hearts and your minds is not taken into account, nor can it be. Your verbal affirmation and then those essential signs which must follow out of that affirmation are accepted as sufficient evidence for your Islam. Anyone who affirms by the word of mouth belief in Allah, belief in the Messenger ﷺ, belief in the Quran, belief in the hereafter and other articles of the faith, and who then also fulfills those necessary conditions which provide proof of this affirmation, is considered part of Muslim society, and all dealings with him or her are to be conducted as with a Muslim. This definition provides the legal and the cultural basis on which Muslim society is organized. So its purpose is no more than that. All those who enter into the Muslim Ummah are recognized as Muslims. Nobody from among them can be called a kafir. Every one of them must have the same mutual legal, moral and social rights. They should be entitled to marry among Muslim women. They should be eligible to receive their share of inheritance. All other civil relations should be established for them once they are legal Muslim. So that is legal Muslim. Now let's look legal Islam. Now what is true Islam? So the true Islam is in the world to come, the hereafter. There you cannot be judged as a Muslim and a Mu'min on the basis of legal affirmation, nor on this basis Allah will accept you as one of His chosen slaves, ibadi. He will not. If you are a legal Muslim, He will not. What will count at that time in hereafter is having faith in the hearts and willingly and wholly, totally submitting the lives to Allah. Whatever is verbally affirmed is meant for courts and for the common man and the Muslim society. For they can only see the exterior. But Allah sees deep into your hearts and knows precisely the degree of your iman. Then the question is, how will Allah judge a man or woman? Allah Azza wa Jalla will see whether the person lived and died for Him alone, whether his loyalties to Allah superseded all other loyalties, whether his obedience and his services, indeed his entire life, were devoted only for Allah. If they were solely for Allah Azza wa Jal, then he will be adjudged a Mu'min and a Muslim. But if they were for someone else, then he will not be adjudged a Muslim or a Mu'min. Whoever falls short of this criterion will, to the extent of he falling short, be lacking in Iman and in Islam. Irrespective of how important a Muslim the world may judge him and how important a high position he may hold, with Allah only one thing matters. That is, whether or not you have given away in His way all that He has given you. If you have, you will be granted the reward which is reserved for those who are loyal and render the service that is due. But if your submission has been less than total, if you spare any part of your life from His service, your claim to be Muslim, which implies that you have only wholly given up yourselves to Him, will be deceptive claim. although you may be able to mislead the world and also persuade the Muslim society to grant you its membership and all the rights of a Muslims, Allah cannot be deceived into assigning a place for you among His faithful. Now reflect on the differences which I just mentioned between legal Islam and true Islam. And you can see that their consequences will vary very greatly. Not only in the hereafter, but also in this world. The life pursuits, characters and disposition of a true Muslim will be totally different from one who merely parades the outward trappings of the faith. You will always encounter these two types of Islam and two types of Muslims. So if you are following the legal Islam alone, you are a partial Muslim. If you are following the true Islam, then you are a true Muslim. So now I just explained to you briefly what is the legal Islam and what is the true Islam. And now I'm going to tell you briefly about what are partial Muslims and what are the true Muslims. Let's go and look at the partial Muslims. Some Muslims profess faith in Allah and His Messenger and declare Islam as their religion. But then they confine this Islam only to part of their lives. To the extent of this part, they express great attachment to Islam, extensively perform the worship rituals like the Salah and the rosary beads, the Zikrullah. They are very particular in conforming to outward piety in matters of food, in matters of dress, in matters of external social, cultural customs. Thus, they are very fully religious for the people to look at. They are fully religious. But beyond these conventions, their lives are not ruled by law. If they love for the sake of their own selves, sake of their country, sake of their nation, or anything else, but not for Allah alone. If they become displeased, they become angry, they become hateful for someone, make enemies or wage war, it too for the sake of some worldly and selfish interest. Their relationship with their businesses, their wives, their children, their families, their societies will all be to a great extent unaffected by Islam, are based on secular considerations. As landlords, as traders, as rulers, as businessmen, as soldiers, as a professional people, doctors, lawyers, in all spheres, they will behave as if they are autonomous, having no connection with their positions as Muslims. When such people establish cultural, educational, political norms, institutions, masajid, they have nothing to do with Islam, true Islam. Even though they may seem Islamic, their soul is lacking about the true Islam. That's most of the Islamic centers in this country, unfortunately. Now, that was partial Muslims. That's what most of the people belong today, especially so in this country. Now, let me tell about the true Muslims. These are the second kind of Muslims who are completely merged their personalities, and their existence into Islam. They are not partial. All the roles they have become subordinate to the one being Allah Azza wa Jal and one role of being a Muslims. They live as Muslims when they live as fathers, as sons, as husbands and wives, businessmen, landlords, laborers, employees, anything, they are true Muslim. Their feelings, their desires, their ideologies, their thoughts, their opinions, their likes, their dislikes, all are shaped by Islam. Allah's guidance holds completely sway over their hearts and minds. Their eyes, their ears, their bellies, their sexual desires, their hands, their feet, their bodies, and their souls are completely in obedience to Allah Azza wa Jal. Neither their loves nor their hatreds are formed independently of Islamic criteria. Whether they fight or make friends, it is purely for the sake of Islam. If they give anything to anybody, it is because Islam requires it to be given. If they withhold anything from anybody, it is because Islam wants it to be withheld. And this attitude of theirs is not limited to personal lives, but it involves their public lives. Their societies are also based entirely on Islam. They collectively exist for Islam alone. Their collective behavior is governed by the precepts of Islam alone. These are the true Muslims. There are very few of them now today. Now, what kinds of Muslims Allah desires? The question is very clear. The answer should be very clear. Let me explain this further. The two kinds of Muslims I just mentioned to you are significantly different from each other. Even if legally both are included in the Ummah and the world recognizes them as Muslims, is applied to both equally. Historically, the first kind of Muslims have made no achievements which they may be worthy of, which they may be worthy of mention, which merits our attention. Nothing these Muslims have done has left an Islamic imprint on the pages of the world history. The world has received no benefit from these Muslims and no benefit from their existence. Islam has suffered decay because of them. Because of the preponderance of such Muslims in the Muslim society today, power of the world leadership has largely passed on the hands of the rebels against Islam. For these Muslims have been content merely with ensuring that they enjoy the freedom to live religiously free within the narrow confines of their private lives. Allah never desired have such Muslims. He never ever desired such Muslims. Nor did He send all His prophets ﷺ, nor did He reveal books to create such Muslims. Indeed, it is the second kind of Muslims who are desired by Allah Azza wa Jal. Only they can ever accomplish anything worthwhile from the Islamic point of view. So it boils down to supreme loyalty to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is not a phenomenon peculiar to Islam. In fact, no way of life can ever prevail in the world if its followers accord their faith and their commitment a subordinate position. Their lives are different from their so-called faith. Or if they live and die for causes other than their faith, they cannot prevail. We see even today that only those who are considered real and true followers of a creed or ideology, who are loyal to it with their hearts and their souls, they will prevail. Every creed in the world desires such adherents, and no creed can prevail in the world except through such followers, and we are not those today. However, there is an important difference between Islam and the other creeds and other ideologies. What is the difference? Although the other ideologies and creeds demand men total loyalty and total dedication, they in fact have no such right upon them. Their claims are totally unjustified. The objects they place before men are not the kind of objects for which a human being should sacrifice anything and everything. But the Allah for whom Islam demands the sacrifice of life has a right upon us. Everything must be given in His way, because whatever exists in the heavens and the earth belongs to Allah alone. Man himself, whatever he possesses and whatever lies within him, all belongs to Allah. It is therefore in perfect harmony with justice as well as with reason that whatever belongs to Allah must be reserved only for Him. Whatever sacrifices man makes for others or for his own benefits or to gratify his desires is indeed a breach of this trust, unless it be with the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. And whatever sacrifice is made for Allah is in reality a payment that is due. But one lesson Muslims must learn from those who are sacrificing everything for the sake of their false ideologies and false gods. What is the lesson? The lesson is, how strange is that while such unimaginable dedication, sacrifices, the fidelity is being shown for false gods, not even a thousandth part of it is shown by the true Allah, by those who profess as true Muslims. Contrast. I don't have to explain it further. See the other cultures, even those people who are falsely claimed Muslims, how they are dedicated to their centers, their imams, their principles. How are the Muslims? It's just contrast. So most of the Muslims today are not true Muslims. Allah did not like you to be like that, but you chose to be like that. So where do we stand today? We Muslims, where do we stand today? Let us examine our lives by the crucial criteria of Iman and Islam as laid down by Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. If you claim, which we all do, that you have accepted Islam, as a matter of fact, some of the Muslims who have come from other part become Muslim, they are very good at that part. When they are outside Islam, they were very good there in terms of dedication, efforts. As soon as they become Muslims, they are here and then they slowly come to the standard of Muslims. They were far better there. I have seen it. They come, initially they are so high level because they came from somewhere else where they have taught them dedication, sacrifice, everything. As soon as they enter Islam, very soon they are down here. Nose billah, this is very, very common. Unlike Umar radiallahu anhu, he was very strong when he was against Islam. He was actually trying to kill Rasulullah sallam. But he became much better when Islam. But that's not what humans do today. They enter Islam, very happy. They are here, slowly, steep decline. Not slowly, steep decline. They don't even realize how they were when they were outside Islam. And when they are, why is there so complacency? Because Shaitan has followed them. So that's very common phenomenon. So if you see the amount of dedication and the attachment, the sacrifices, people other, I don't want to name them, how they were and how Muslims are. And some of them, they come from there, here, they're very good initially. But very soon you will see them become the so-called normal Muslims, who are partial Muslims, which is I am talking about. They are not true Muslim. Allah didn't like these people. So where do we stand today? Let us examine our lives by this criteria of Islam, which I just started in my talk with, from the Quran and from the Sunnah. If you claim that you have accepted Islam, which we all do, have you oriented your living and your dying towards Allah alone? Have you? No. Are you living in His cause alone? Are you so much attached that your hearts and your minds, your bodies, your souls, your times and your efforts, you are being devoted to the fulfillment of Allah's pleasure and His wishes? No. Is that mission being accomplished through which Allah wants to be fulfilled by the Muslim Ummah? Are you able to stand and say yes? No. Most of us. And again, do you obey? Do you serve only Allah? No. We serve ourselves first, which I talked initially few weeks ago. Serve ourselves, serve the family, cultures, the society, then time left over Allah Azza wa Jal. So it is upside down. Have you eliminated from your lives subservience to selfish desires, to obedience to family, to obedience to the brotherhood, to obedience to the friends, to obedience to the society, to obedience to anything else? No. Then how can you be Muslim? How can you be Muslim, which Allah wants you to be? That's why He created you to be. Have you made your likes and dislikes totally subordinate to the wishes of Allah? No. If you love somebody, is it really for the sake of Allah? If you dislike somebody, is it that too for the sake of Allah alone or because of your nafs? If no element of selfishness involved in this affairs of yours, do you give and withhold only for the sake of Allah? Are you spending your own selves, giving well to other people, or withholding the same because that's what Allah wants? Just examine yourself. Is your motive nothing but gain the pleasure of Allah? Most of the time it is not so, but we still call ourselves Muslims. Not only Muslim, we think we are very pious. So that's the problem. Shaitan has not left you. You are very happy now that you become Muslim. But really, who decides you are Muslim or no? That's what I'm going to tell now. If you find such state of faith and submission within yourself, if you said yes to all of the answers which I just put forward, what you should do is thank Allah Azza wa Jal, for He has bestowed upon you the blessings of true Iman with fullness. Don't feel proud of yourself. If you feel any deficiency in the questions which I just asked, you must immediately give up other concerns and worry and concentrate wholly on remedying this deficiency before it's too late. Don't know when you're going to die. to immediately you need to correct yourself. Because on the removal of this deficiency will depend your well-being not only in the hereafter but here too. Whatever success you may enjoy in the present life will not compensate you for the loss you will suffer in the hereafter due to this deficiency in your Iman and faith and Islam. But if you make up this deficiency, even if you gain nothing in this world, you will benefit immensely in the life to come. Now the caution here is a very important caution. I'm going to warn you all this. Do not use this criterion to test or judge others. Determine whether that he is a Muslim or a hypocrite or Muslim or kafir. Don't use it for others. Use it to only judge your own selves. And if you detect any deficiency, immediately try to correct it before you meet Allah Azza wa Jal. How a mufti or a scholar or a court judges you should be of least concern to you. It's only the judgment of the supreme ruler, the supreme knower of the seen and unseen, which matters. Alimul ghaibi wa shahada. Do not become happy merely on seeing your names registered as a Muslims, but remain anxious about how and where your names are entered in the register of Allah Azza wa Jal. Real success consists of being judged as Muslims and Mu'min and not hypocrites, obedient and not disbelievers, faithful and not unfaithful, by Allah who is the final judge. So try to examine yourself. Brothers, we are all sleeping in coma. Wishful thinking has no place in Islam. Take that out. Try to evaluate yourself. You will be ashamed how you are leading your life today. Forget about how Rasulullah will think about you. He will be ashamed to see ourselves, the way we dress, the way we talk, our homes, our transactions, our businesses. He will be ashamed to call us his ummah. That's the present conditions of Muslims, and that is how we are where we are today. Instead of blaming others, try to find out who you are and what are you doing. It's very easy to point fingers at others, but what is your status today? Try to examine, because you will be examined eventually and very minutely. Very minutely. It's coming. It's not a fiction story. It is happening, and very soon. The moment you die, that is your akhirah. And are you sure when you die? Has anybody knowledge when he's going to die, or she? Brothers and sisters, I have given the message. It's your job now to internalize it and help others. That's the job. It's not an option now anymore. As a Muslim, that is not an option. To listen, and then as soon as you're on Anwaki Road, you are the same till next Jummah. That's what our condition is today. So try to help yourself and help others. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us the followers of Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Make us live in Islam and die in the state of faith. May He help us to do that which He loves, which pleases Him. We ask Him to help us to remember Him, be thankful to Him, to worship Him properly, and to accept our good deeds and forgive our sins. May He make us of those who are pious and fearful of Him. At the same time, we love to obey Him. May Allah bless Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all his family, his companions, radiallahu anhum. Whatever I said correct is from Allah Azza wa Jal. If I erred, then it is from my nafs and shaitan. I ask forgiveness and repentance. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لكم وأستغفر الله غفور رحيم.